Today on Ian vs. Daddybones, we're going into fucking beast mode with Beastman.
Oh boy, kids, we're gonna have fun today.
Yay! Hey! Alright!
How is everyone doing tonight?
Welcome back! It's another exciting episode of Ian vs. Daddybones. I'm Ian Daddybones. I want to say what's up to everybody watching right now. Say hey everybody to all the YouTube subscribers. Give a special high five and a nut tap to all the Patreon subscribers. Throwing me $1 for 1 month, 30 days of bonus content. And today on the show, I got something fucking huge planned. Today, we're going to be talking about a legendary Masters of the Universe character. We're going to be talking about one of Skeletor's most loyal henchmen, the almighty Beastman. You probably thought I was going to go with Bobby Lashley because I rolled in with fucking almighty, but no, you were totally wrong, sir. We are talking about Beastman today, and as you see right here before you, I have 3 versions of Beastman I'm going to talk about, and right here in the boxes, I got 2 Beastman characters that I'm going to be opening up today on the show, and the first figure that I'm going to open up today is going to be the Master of the Universe, Masterverse Revelations Beastman. And for Patreon subscribers, y'all are getting hooked up because today, almost 1 year later, I am officially opening last year's Father's Day gift from Julia, which is the Masters of the Universe new attorney of Beastman, the Savage Beastman, and I'm going to tell the Patreon subscribers all about him, and they get to watch me open him up. So if you want to watch me open up the Savage Beastman and celebrate 1 year since I got last year's Father's Day gift from Julia, then feel free to join the fucking Patreon. For everybody else, it's my birthday this month, so if you want to scan the Cash App code and throw me some chips towards the greater good of us growing the brand, that would be totally appreciated, dude. But I'm going to do things different today. Normally, I'll talk about the character and the figures and open up the character at the end of it, you know what I mean? But today, I'm going to start off the episode by opening up this Masterverse Beastman figure because, to be honest with you, sometimes I feel doing the show, I like getting my knowledge out there, you know what I mean? I like telling you about why I'm so excited about said toy and the backstory and origin and any other information pertaining to the character, that sometimes I feel like I'm rushing myself at the end. So with that said, I'm going to officially open up this Masterverse Beastman because it's been almost a year since I bought this figure. I actually had this figure included in last year's batch of figures that I bought around my birthday last year, which actually included my Terra Claw Skeletor, my Flying Fist He-Man, and at the time, this Beastman figure was one of the figures I needed to be current with the Masterverse line at the time. But on the back of his packaging, it says Beastman, Savage Henchman. The fearless feral force spent his entire life fighting for Skeletor's evil causes, using his brute strength and telepathic command of dangerous creatures to his master's advantage. With the magic gone from Eternia, Beastman serves Evil Lyn as her monstrous muscle in her search to repair the damage done in the final battle at Castle Grayskull. So, this Beastman figure was actually part of the second wave of Masterverse when it first came out. The first wave was He-Man, Skeletor, Mossman, and Evil Lyn, and your second wave was Man-at-Arms, Teela, Beastman, and Spikor. And now I got introduced to this version of Beastman while watching the Masters of the Universe Revelation series, and like they said in his bio on the back, you know, after the final battle of Grayskull, you know, when He-Man and Skeletor were both vanquished, you know, he had no master to serve. So he was basically keeping an eye on Evil Lyn, making sure she was safe, in this world of Eternia that no longer had magic and shit. So Beastman basically watched from the shadows, but if somebody put her life in danger, he would be there with the quickness, ready to kill, maim, and attack. But I do gotta say that in the Revelations cartoon, there are two versions of Beastman shown, because there's two timelines of events. There's He-Man and Skeletor before the Battle of Eternia, and then there's Eternia after the final battle when the magic's gone and there's no He-Man, there's no Skeletor, and people are switching up alliances and you're finding out who the fucking snakes are amongst the snakes, and even amongst bad guys, who has some fucking honor among them. And with that said, Beastman definitely shows he's honorable, he's there, he keeps an eye on Evil Lyn, makes sure he's safe. So Beastman's actually a fucking dope character in that series. But in the past events, they showed Beastman the way he looked in classic Masters of the Universe, like this orange figure right here wearing the red armor. So that's how Beastman has always traditionally looked. But once he started keeping an eye on Evil Lyn from the distance, Beastman, as you can see here, he's not wearing his armor. He's basically naked, scarred, and his beard fur is in little braids, and he's wearing this oversized giant ass blue loincloth, kind of like his vintage figure. And if you look underneath the loincloth, clearly he has no dick. But Beastman, I gotta say, while his worn and weathered older look fit him in the show, I gotta say, for the purpose of an action figure, it's kind of a boring Beastman just because he comes across so friggin' naked and shit. And like the classic vintage Beastman figure, this Beastman does come with his classic whip, which I always think is interesting, because I think it's interesting for the following reason. The fact that Beastman came with that whip, but that whip weapon is actually repurposed from the Big Jim toy line. I believe there was a character who was called the Whip, and he came with that very whip that Beastman had. Like, this same exact mold and everything was reused from the Big Jim line, because it's the same scale and mold that they reused when making the original Beastman figure for Masters of the Universe in 1981 and shit. But it's kind of interesting seeing how this Beastman in Masterverse also comes with the whip, but he's got like a more detailed whip as far as the handle bracer goes and whatnot, and the overall, there's like 4 points on the tip of the whip, and it's actually pretty fucking sick. I do think how it's like that got lifted from one toy line, but this got improved based on the lifted toy reused from the previous older toy line that the most kids today don't even know about Big Jim. And you know what? I think at some point on maybe the Original Geeks podcast, since I don't have any Big Jim figures to talk about, I think I may do an Original Geeks podcast bonus episode talking about the Big Jim line in its entirety and its influence on Masters of the Universe and other toy lines and shit, because I think that'd be pretty fucking dope. But back to the Beastman. As you can see, the Masterverse Beastman. I do gotta say, while I think he's kind of a boring figure just because of lack of accessories and shit other than his whip, that's all he came with, other than these extra hands. And I do gotta say, I think it's impressive how he's got these big beefy paws, You know, compared to other Masterverse figures in the line, like if you compare this Beastman figure to He-Man and Skeletor, and even like Man-at-Arms and Teela, if you want to take a normal male figure body and a normal female figure body from Masterverse, compare it to Beastman, like his hands and even his feet, you know, are pretty fucking bulky. Like I would say, looking at this Beastman buck, you know, I mean, granted, it's on scale with the equivalent of a WWE Ultimate Edition figure, because like they have I'm learning from buying the WWE Elites. And spoiler alert, I got 2 Hulk Hogan figures ordered that are going to be coming. I'm going to be talking about in July. I got the 1986 WWE Ultimate Edition Hulk Hogan with the red Hulkamania shirt and the white headband that says Hulkster on it. And I also grabbed the WWE Elite Hulk Hogan that's got the license plate around his neck and the gladiator helmet and shit. So I'm learning between the different bucks, between the basic like $10 figures that have no articulation in the torso, and then you have the Elite figures that rock forward and back, and then you got the Ultimate Edition that have the torso that roll around and pivot and shit. So I would say Beastman's buck is on equivalent to like my Ultimate Warrior, and based on the Ultimate Warrior's shared parts, that's going to be with that Hulk Hogan figure, very similar as far as Beastman's build goes. But going back then to the vintage Beastman, like I said, he was originally one of the first characters in Masters of the Universe, and you know, even before the launch, you got to go into the beta testing mode, you know what I mean, when it was still concept art, the pre-production, the development of the toy line before they were ready to present it. Originally, Beastman was one of the original 5 characters. You had He-Man, Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Merman, and Beastman. And that's when the toy line was known at the time as Lords of Power. So the original name of the toy line was going to be Lords of Power, but then Mattel was like, it's too close to religion and God with lords, and they didn't want people thinking it was a religious toy line or anything blasphemous. So they went back to the drawing board and yada yada, they settled on Masters of the Universe, as we all know and love. And Beastman was one of those original 5 characters when they showed the prototype. And you know what? Real quick, I'm going to throw up the prototype picture. So as you can see right there, that's the first like prototype. These were like the final prototypes while they were waiting for approval to move forward with Lords of Power before they settled on Masters of the Universe. So some of these characters had final revisions at the end of the day. Like Man-at-Arms had like a sculpted like furry piece going over his one shoulder on his armor. That was removed. You know, he had like dots on his helmet that were painted. That was later removed, even though some vintage figures allegedly had the red dots. Beastman had a different head sculpt and whatnot. So and he looked kind of different than the version that they decided to finally settle on. So this middle version of Beastman that I have here on the table is the Masters of the... Now, hold on, actually pause before I get to the second Beastman. Looking at this Origins Beastman, as you can tell, he's got the 16 points of articulation, his knees bend, his feet rock and rotate, he swivels at the hips, his legs are on the ball joint, they move, his shoulders and biceps, you know, he's got are on the go up and down, up all around, you know what I mean? There's freaking his biceps move, his freaking elbows bend, his freaking wrist rotate. So he's got all the articulation that all the Origins characters have had in the line. So the second Beastman actually came out, I believe it was Wave 5. See, this Beastman's got really loose fucking knees. This This Beastman, I believe, came out in not wave 5. I think it was wave 6. All I know is this version of Beastman is what is being called the Masters of the Universe, Lords of Power Beastman. This Beastman has a head sculpt that's based on the original Beastman prototype head sculpt, and the gold armor, and he's got these like little Wolverine claws on his bracers, his gauntlets, and he's rocking this belt. Now, there was one of the prototype sketches of Beastman, right? When they were coming up with different character designs, one of Beastman's character designs had him rocking this armor, and he was red. He wasn't orange. And that version of Beastman has always been affectionately referred to as Red Beast. And plus, the original mini comics, the little mini booklets, before they were mini comics, they were like these little mini storybooks that came with like the first 2 waves of Masters of the Universe vintage figures before they officially transitioned to mini comics. But on the cover of the very first Masters of the Universe mini comics, Beastman is present, but Beastman is in his Masters of the Universe look, but his fur is red instead of orange. So that's why this Beastman is completely red, paying homage to that vintage color screw-ups, where Beastman was presented as red instead of orange, and he's also rocking his old original armor, and he has this somewhat wrestling-looking championship belt around his waist. I know it's not a wrestling belt, but it's just a big center plate on a belt. It's got major championship vibes to it, and I gotta say, when I first saw this Beastman character at Target, I didn't know what to take of it, because I saw the LOP sticker on it, and at first, I don't know, I was having a brain fart. I wasn't smart that day. I couldn't put 2 and 2 together at that moment in time what the LOP stood for, and even though it should have been quite obvious. So I'm like looking at this LOP Beastman, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. So I was talking to Andy Heder, who one of my buddies who's a professional wrestler. I was talking to Andy Heder about it. I'm like, dude, I saw this red Beastman variant that they had at Target that's part of the new wave. And I go, I don't think I'm going to grab it. I think that's actually one character I may skip. And I remember Andy telling me to, I wouldn't pass over it. You don't know how these things are. You may never see that figure again. So the more I thought about it, hey, you know what? Andy's absolutely right. Because if I don't grab that Beastman knowing it's on the shelf right now, I'm probably never going to see him again. So sure enough, I grabbed the red Beastman from Target and added him to my collection. And to be honest with you, I have seen him a couple of times, but it's been very rare. And I do know that I haven't seen him since the last time I saw him, which was about a year ago. So at the end of the day, I'm glad that I got this Beastman. I'm glad I listened to Andy Heder. And at the end of the day, I think he's a pretty sick figure. My only request, I would like them to do a color variant of that Beastman. What I would like them to do is I would like them to put out that red Beastman in the classic orange with the classic red color for that variant of the armor. I think that would look absolutely sick, just like the red and the orange come together on the classic vintage figure. I think that would look really dope on a repaint for him. But yeah, you got Lord of Power Beastman and you got regular Beastman. But I do gotta say, my only complaint about this figure, and I guess it's not really much of a complaint because I guess it's shared parts. It's all the same universal pieces across the production line, process when they're making all the figures. Some figures have really loose parts, some figures have really tight parts, and that goes for various other things in life. But when it comes to Beastman, I kind of like him to be able to stand up securely and not worry about him falling over. Thankfully, he doesn't fall over. But if he was to, he would be one of those characters that I would probably have in the back of the shelf. So that way, if he tips back, at least he's leaning against the back of the shelf. But yeah, I mean, just overall looking at Beastman, like I said, he's always been one of Skeletor's like most loyal right-hand men. You know, he's always part of that main squad of Skeletor's bad guys. Like when you were a kid in the 80s and you started your collection, and you know that's the best thing. A lot of us got our first He-Man figures as Christmas presents, birthday presents, you know what I mean? I mean, not everybody celebrates Christmas, you know? Some kids may have got their He-Man figures as Hanukkah presents. Who the fuck knows? I don't know what you or everybody else celebrates, but everybody does something different, and, you know, but the one thing we have in common is for the fan base community that fell in love with these fucking toys, a lot of the times we started off with He-Man and Skeletor. I didn't. I started off with Man-at-Arms and Ram-Man, but at the same time, those two random figures that I got for Christmas that year, when I was 3 going on 4 years old, you know, made a major impact in my life as far as like my list of favorite fucking things ever. And you know, most kids, you start off your collections with He-Man and Skeletor, and then it's okay, well, I need this guy because I see this character in a mini comic, and I need that girl, and I need that evil girl, and I want to get that cat, and what's that plane that looks like a bird? You know what I mean? All this random shit that you saw in mini comics, and even with the way they knocked out television commercials on Saturday morning cartoons and even after school cartoons, you know what I mean? That shit was everywhere. You know, you were constantly seeing the new product before it was going to be available in stores. And you know, that's where all the hype was about, was like filling out your collection, knowing what characters were your favorite characters to you. Your buddies could have their other favorite characters and whatnot, but at the end of the day, you know, when you first get the toys, you want to get more. And then it's like you got your Masters, you got your Evil Warriors, and, you know, Beastman along with Trapjaw and Triclops and Evil Lyn were always like the four pillars of the bad guys. Where when it came to the good guys, you had Man-at-Arms, Teela, like Ram-Man and Stratos, but I would even replace Ram-Man with like Zodak at the time, because Zodak was also an early character, even though they weren't sure exactly what type of character they wanted Zodak to be. But, you know, Beastman was a very popular character. You know, you had the action figure line, the vintage toy line, then in the Filmation cartoon, Beastman was one of the major players in that cartoon. He was right there in Skeletor's side, doing his job, a loyal henchman. And the only thing is, in the mini comics, Beastman was always more ferocious, but in the Filmation cartoon, he was more of like a bumbling buffoon, and a lot of the other characters would he'd be like Beastman in the vintage cartoon, in the Filmation cartoon, was like one of those characters that you would expect to like always slip on a banana peel or something like that. You know what I mean? If Orko's making pies fly around or something accidentally, you know, Beastman will be who they show the pie hitting in his face or whatnot. So it's like, he was there for comic relief and like, basically just being a dipshit. And if anything went wrong, you know, it was like always Beastman's fault, and, you know, and he was always there. He was always there. He was always classic. He was always a favorite amongst fans. Overall, like, just classic character. Whether he was in the toy line, whether he was in the Filmation cartoon, and then rolling into 1987, you know, they put Beastman in the live-action Masters of the Universe movie, and I gotta be honest, you know what I mean? For everything that movie did wrong, I feel Beastman was one of the things that movie did right. like, Beastman actually looked pretty fucking dope. With all the special effects, makeup that they had on that actor playing Beastman, especially at the time it came out in 1987. I mean, you look at other films that came out in 1987, not to mention horror movies the way they were, with special effects and makeup in the 80s and shit, as far as, like, monsters go. Like, that was, that was a pretty terrifying look. That was of a fan favorite character, you know what I mean? I thought movie Beastman was actually pretty fucking dope. And then after the movie, like I said numerous times over the course of this show, the movie is what collapsed the toy line. So that was pretty much the end of Beastman as far as the 80s go. Rolling into new adventures of He-Man. There was no Beastman in that series. But then in 2000X, the Mike Young Masters of the Universe Toonami Cartoon Network reboot introduced Beastman exactly as he was. Skeletor's one of Skeletor's most loyal henchmen. He was right there and in the main squad of bad guys. Everything, I failed to mention Beastman has the ability of communicating with animals, with the exception of like Cringer, Battlecat, Panther, and I believe dragons. But so he looked really fucking sick in the 2000X reboot. Like, he was more of a he was more like slender waist, but he had like bigger shoulders and a chest, and he was more ape-like with the in the 2000X series, but he was like anime ape-like. Like Beastman looked absolutely sick in 2000X, and I will say that look in particular of the character not only like was done justice, but that version of the character kind of carried on as the toy line would go on. Like, for example, they had the 2000X Masters of the Universe toy line. Beastman got a figure. That Beastman was pretty dope. And Beastman's figure was also reused to make Mossman in that toy line. Just like the Beastman figure was reused in the 80s to make the Mossman figure. This Origins Beastman figure is also going to be reused to make the Origins Mossman figure, which should be showing up at Walmart anytime now. But going back to 2000X Beastman, like, that look of the character, like, was absolutely sick. Like, you could read comic books and see different artists draw Spider-Man over the years, but you have certain artists that draw your Spider-Man when you think of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's always going to be Todd McFarlane when I think of Spider-Man, and or even Romita. You know what I mean? But like, when I think of, like, in my head, when I think of Beastman's look, 9 out of 10 times it's coming from the 2000X redesign of him, because like elements from him carried over going forward. Like, that Beastman had the blue long loincloth front sash, you know what I mean, that carried over to the Masterverse figure. But rolling into 2008, when the Masters of the Universe Classics line started, Beastman got a figure in Classics, and that Classics version of Beastman looks absolutely sick. And going forward after Masters of the Universe Classics, like, Super 7 was able to do, because like Four Horsemen did Masters of the Universe Classics, but then Super 7 got the line at the end, and they were like had Club Grayskull. So like they got the Super 7 got the Filmation license, so they were able to make Filmation versions of the characters. So they made like a Filmation version of Beastman, who I don't have on this table because at the moment I'm not collecting Filmation anything, even though I'm hearing rumors that in 2024 Masters of the Universe Origins is going to start doing the Filmation version of the figures. So we're going to get He-Man with his cartoon head. We're going to get Skeletor with his cartoon head. But that remains to be seen. We'll see what the fuck happens whenever Mattel makes the official announcements. But rolling into 2021, here, I'll move him out of the way. rolling into 2021, Netflix had the. I got a cat trying to break into the production room right now, so clearly I must be a pussy magnet. But in the 2001 Netflix CG reboot of Masters of the Universe, the series that is aimed at my daughter Sadie, Beastman was introduced as a character. As you can see here, this is my daughter Sadie's big chunky ass Beastman. This thing is freaking epic and huge. I mean, her Beastman is roughly the same scale, but it's just it's like half an inch taller than my Origins Beastman. But this is Sadie's Beastman. She got this for Christmas because I've been making sure my daughter Sadie gets introduced to Masters of the Universe like a good father. Because unfortunately, He-Man wasn't around when Owen was a little boy, and I think that sucks. It wasn't around when Natalia was a little girl, which I think sucks. Definitely wasn't around when Julia was a little girl, but Julia had Harry Potter and Star Wars. Julia turned out okay. But, you know, the one thing I like about all this is that my kids get to share my excitement with something that truly made Dad happy as a kid. And, you know, it's something I get to have back in my life again. And, you know, I just think it's a lot of fun, and I'm having so much fun with it, especially with doing the show and whatnot. But I was able to get my daughter Sadie her own Beastman to go with her Skeletor and her Evil Lyn and her Trapjaw. You know what I mean? So Sadie absolutely loves this character. It's the amount of orange, and it's bright and colorful, because I'm not gonna lie, like when I was a kid playing with He-Man, like when I got introduced to Masters of the Universe, I didn't know how to wipe my own ass. You know what I mean? I was 3. I wasn't like, you know what I mean? I was still growing up, you know what I mean? And I think, like, looking back at my childhood, like a lot of my favorite colors, you know what I mean? You're in preschool, you're painting and finger painting and shit, and then you go on to, you know, kindergarten, and you're eating fucking paste and shit, and you're still finger painting. You know, you start learning and getting favorite colors. And for me, like, a lot of my favorite colors, I could, like, dead ass, like orange, I could pinpoint orange to Beastman. I look at lime green, which teenage me associated with Degeneration X, but I look at lime green from the way it was on Trapjaw. You know what I mean? I actually like magenta as a color because it was on Trapjaw. So it's just the little things that, like, you know, leave an impact and whatnot. So I can only imagine, like, what my daughter Sadie thinks about her Masters of the Universe. And I mean, I really do wonder. And as far as I know, she loves it. Like, she gets, like, she points at my figures, and every time she points at my figures, she tries her damnedest to say Skeletor. You know what I mean? And when I, like, ask her what she wants to watch on TV, you want to watch Bluey, you want to watch Gabby's Dollhouse, you want to watch Puppy Dog Pals, or you want to watch He-Man? And when she goes, Mimi, I know Mimi means He-Man. So she likes watching He-Man. She watches the shit out of the cartoons and whatnot. She absolutely loves it. And I was really glad to get my daughter a Beastman figure, and it's kind of cool because, like, when I was a kid, I never had Beastman as a child. I thought, you know, I always wanted him, but he never seemed to be available whenever my parents or relatives or anybody was, like, looking for He-Man figures for me. And it's funny too, because some kids I know had Beastman, some kids didn't have Beastman, and for the kids who had Beastman, they either had Beastman complete with all his armor and his whip, or they have a Beastman with the whip, but he's got no armor. And in the 80s, they came out with a weapon and accessory pack. So in case for, like, kids that, you know, were dumb and lost their accessories and shit, they would come out with, like, a replacement weapons and armor pack, but they would be, like, painted, you know, molded in different colors and shit. So they wouldn't be, like, an exact replacement of the original, but it, like, you'll still, like the Beastman replacement whip was the same, but his replacement armor, which was reissued in, like, a golden, like, brown type tan armor. And it's funny because that golden tan Beastman armor was later put on Mossman and a lot of people have been associating with that as like Mossman's version of the Beastman armor. So yeah, you either had kids that didn't have the complete package with their toys, or they were missing parts and pieces and shit. And me, I'm that's why I'm a completionist with everything. I like my shit having all their accessories, and in this case, especially with the Masterverse figures, I got extra accessories like extra heads, extra hands, and shit. But the one thing I will say about Sadie's, like even going back to Masters of the Universe Classics, like they gave some backstory information to like expand on Beastman's past. You know what I mean? To make it not more interesting, but add more context to it for classics. And a lot of that stuff, even there was like comic books that were like released in England, and many audio cassettes, radio dramas that were released in Germany and shit, that provided extra information on characters and shit that we didn't even know about. Like apparently Beastman had a real name, had a first name, and it was Rakaz. And the whole thing with Rakaz is that version of Beastman was introduced in the 2021, available on Netflix right now, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. You find out that Rakaz is like a flea boat bitten, like old man looking monkey poacher, and basically he's kind of like if Doc Brown from Back to the Future fucked Kraven the Hunter from Spider-Man. That's basically what Rakaz is in Masters of the Universe. And Rakaz is like, that's his normal form, but then when Skeletor shares the power of Havoc with him, he turns into like a stone statue, and then from within the stone statue bursts out the Beastman, and it's absolutely fucking sick. So I highly recommend you check out that 2021 Masters of the Universe series. But ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to call it an episode because my production assistant, Buddy Misters, who's actually fucking here this week, is giving me a thumbs up that it's time to wrap it up, Dad. We got to call it a show because you still got the Patreon bonus footage to do. So I'm going to get the fuck out of here. But again, thank you very much for watching the show. To my Patreon subscribers, thank you very much. I love and appreciate you guys. And stick around, go hop over on the Patreon because I'm going to unbox this Beastman figure. And by the time you're watching this right now, it's already going to be available. And again, it's my birthday in a couple of days, June 22nd. So if you're watching this right now and you want to help support the brand, $1 for 30 days of bonus content, and you get your name in the credits. If you subscribe for $5 a month, you get 2 to 3 episodes of the original Geeks podcast, my second show, exclusive and only available on the Patreon. So I'm gonna stop whoring myself, and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Cheers, Pete!
Epic Roast Guy. Roast Guy. Epic Roast Guy. Epic Roast God.